You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun. Hey everybody, welcome to a new week. Yes, it's a new week here on the Doug Collins Podcast. Glad to have you with us. Today, in just a few minutes, I'm going to start talking about how we think. And talking about this, there's been a lot of great books out there. John Maxwell, a great leadership author, he wrote a lot of things about leadership, that is just really good stuff. So if you go to John Maxwell, look up any of his books, 21 Qualities of a Leader, there's just a lot out there, how to think, and there's a lot of other writers out there, but thinking is something that we all take for granted, I'll assume. But do we actually think about where we get our input and our ideas? And this really came to me, and I had some old lessons, and it came up in I saw it in a social media post that somebody had put some of these things together, and it reminded me of some lessons that I used to teach when I would do lessons in leadership, not only with the church, but with others as well. And I just thought about some things that I wanted to go over with today on the show. So just a few minutes, we're going to talk about thinking. We're going to talk about where we get our input and who we base our decisions on. And I think our show from earlier in the week where we talked about the pathway ahead in the presidential election next year, where that information is going to come, what's going to be a determinant there. I think this lesson dovetails, interestingly enough, well with that, because it actually puts us into thinking, okay, where am I getting my information? What am I actually basing what I believe on, and what we can do going forward. That'll be just in a few minutes here on the Doug Collins Podcast here for the Monday. But, look, lots going on. On Wednesday this week, we're going to have Chan Gailey on. Chan's going to go over the draft. A lot of stuff happened. I don't even want to talk about the Falcons. We're not going to talk about the Falcons. We may get into it with Chan on Wednesday, but it's just, again, interesting time on the draft. We've got the elections are picking up. Trump is blowing out his lead. Frankly, interestingly enough, one of the first polls of a true Democratic primary is showing Robert F. Kennedy son to be, drawing anywhere from 15 to 25%. I think that's interesting. Will the Democrats shut him down in the next round? And there's already some talk about the fact that if he goes to New Hampshire, the Democratic National Committee is going to punish him because Biden set up South Carolina to be the first primary. So a lot of things going on in the political world. We'll get to those over the next few weeks. But today, just wanted to spend some time talking about what do we do when we learn? What do we base our information on? And I think this is a great podcast for you to share, not only with your kids, share with your family, share with your other people. Maybe this will be a time if you're in charge of doing a training time in your company or leadership lesson, this may be something. Like I said, nothing's new that I'm going to be telling you necessarily, but maybe you never heard it before. Maybe you never heard it put in this package. So I just wanted you to be aware of something that I had learned a long time ago and taught a long time ago. Saw it recently on a social media post, and I thought it'd be good to bring this back. So with that, how we learn to think and we think about ourselves coming up here on the Doug Collins Podcast. Hey, everybody, you know about Legacy Precious Metals. Legacy Precious Metals, you hear from them. We talk once a month. We talk about Legacy Precious Metals, talking about precious metals being part of your portfolio, how they're your navigator. Well, now they're not only navigating in a new way, they're actually giving you a new way to buy gold and silver. In fact, Legacy Precious Metals has developed a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in real gold and silver online. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped to your door. I'm more of a ship to my door kind of person. I enjoy having them with me, but they can do it either way, and you can now do it online. It gives you real access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time, anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar. This puts you in complete control of your money. This platform is free to sign up for. Just visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and is against a volatile stock market. A true diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but a different asset class. This platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Remember, do as I have done. Go to legacypminvestments.com and get started today. And now you've got a new tool to help you along in your investments. Hey folks, MyPillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99, get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff, blankets. They've got duvets. They've got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all at big, big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream Sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, I mean, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from MyPillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to mypillow.com, use promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts. All right. One of the things when you're learning is, especially what we're seeing in media today, and especially what we're seeing in politics, is people today are clamoring to either things that confirm what they believe, they want to believe, or they look for excuses or other, the best way to put this, other confirmations that what they're thinking is right. And some of that is good, some of that is bad. What I'm concerned about the most, and why we do this podcast every week, and hopefully you come back and hopefully you share this podcast or go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com, hit an email button. I'd love to hear your comments about this, is that we need to investigate, we need to expand our horizons on where we take our input and how we base our decisions. If you simply are basing your decisions on one piece of information, one overheard comment, you could be getting yourself into trouble. But we see it all the time, and mainstream media is bad about this. I mean, we've seen it over the past few years. They take, little things that they're given. They don't question the motivations on who's giving it to them, the information giving it to them. And just like my coffee here. If I said to you, this is the best cup of coffee, and you had never had coffee, I give you this coffee, then you taste it and you say, well, Doug said this was the best cup of coffee. I'm never going to ask anybody else. You'll just assume that this is the best cup of coffee there's ever been. No input from anywhere else. No, in fact, you'll come back to me and somebody says, well, Doug, is this the best cup of coffee? I'm going to say yes. That's something called confirmation bias. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, especially when it comes into politics. Can be very disturbing if we're only relying on some of these things that we're going to talk about coming up for our decision. So jumping right into here, the first one is just like I said, it's confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when people seek out information that confirms a pre-existing condition or a pre-existing belief. And at the same time, you ignore any evidence to the contrary. This is huge in politics. This is huge in policy. We believe X, and we're going to go find other people who believe X. And since other people believe X, then X must be true. And this is what leads people down terrible paths. I'm going to just use an example. And we've even got presidential candidates saying, I'm going to personally shut down the IRS. No, you're not. Okay. Now, what happens, though, is we think that's a good idea. So we go to our Republican Party meetings and we get other people. What do you think about shutting down the IRS? Yes, I think that's a great idea. So we all do it. Can the president do it? Sure. We don't ever ask questions. Okay. Do I think that the IRS needs to go away and we need a better tax system in this country? You better believe I do. But the truth is if I'm only looking for others who believe like me, and I know this is scary, because if you go to talk radio, you go to, how many of you only go to Fox News? Now, granted, I don't like CNN or MSNBC that much at all, but there are other points of view that you may need to hear there that can confirm, yes, that you're right, or say, well, maybe I hadn't thought of it in that way. But if you're simply looking to get confirmed what you already believe, then your decision-making is flawed because you're not opening yourself up to the possibilities that you may not have all of the information. Here, as we look at this, I know this is hard. We know that conservative voices are, and especially most conservatives, if you're a liberal who listens to this show, liberals do it as well. You want people to believe. We want to be part of a crowd. We want to be part of people that believe like we do, and we want to make sure that our beliefs have others to go along with it. Nobody likes standing out there on an island, but folks, sometimes standing on an island is the best place to be if your belief, your pre-existing belief, turns out, well, I didn't have all the information I needed. It's never a problem to say, I don't know. Unfortunately, today's society tends to punish those who don't have concrete beliefs that may or may not have been fed from a faulty assumption. Now, another one is believing the first thing that you hear. And sometimes this is called anchoring. This is sometimes called, first take, however you want to call it. And it's when you rely too heavily on information that you hear first, and that the first information you view as authoritative. Now, think about this. If the first thing that you view tells you that, I'll use an example here, that if the only take you ever saw, the first take you had, said that eating steak would kill you immediately, or that veganism is the only way to true happiness. Whatever your first time, if you never stop at that point, if you just stop there and say, okay, undoubtedly that must be right because it's the first thing I heard. Sort of different than confirmation bias. Confirmation means you're going out and looking for people to agree with you, and you're only going to go where people believe what you believe from a pre-existing condition. Now, this anchoring or this first impression bias comes when you just take things at face value. This is, I call this sometimes the gullible side of it, because if you're just simply taking the first thing you hear and believing it without questioning it, I'll take you for a lot of money and a lot of time. And too many times in life, we don't deal with people in that vein. We believe what we hear. We're going to be lazy. We're not going to check it out. We're not going to confirm it. This is why I believe so many people get ripped off on the internet. This is why so many people get taken for rides when they get the email saying, if you send us your credit card information, we'll give you an extra $300 off and a free, car. Or the Nigerian prince scam that's been on email. Sometimes people want to believe it. They just see it. They say, well, it must be true. It must be out there. Nobody would actually do it do stuff like this. And people get in trouble in an overall idea when they just simply take the first thing that they hear. Now, this is very similar to what is known as the bandwagon effect. And I think this is another where you believe it's sort of the opposite of the confirmation bias, and it's sort of different than the first take in the sense that in confirmation bias, you're looking for people who agree with you. In sort of the bandwagon, you're just jumping on the bandwagon of what everybody believes. Now, in a larger sense, I truly believe this is a concern of the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers were very concerned about this bandwagoning effect in the sense that one person or two people could begin a movement, whether it be based in truth and reality or not, and bring people in to change our government on a whim. Many people, we go back to the Founding Fathers, and let's talk about this for a second. We think about the Founding Fathers as, we the people and others. They frankly were very scared of people. Now, they set up a government of checks and balances, which is perfect for what we have. They did believe that if you go back to the founders themselves, they did not believe the Senate should be elected. A lot of people are coming back to that idea now, but they believe that the House would be the one closest, to the people. That would be a direct reflection of what people were feeling. The Senate was supposed to be the cooling off side, that if something rose too quickly, such as the bandwagon effect for we're going to ban X. I remember back when, freedom fries. If you remember, when France wouldn't let us fly over our jets, and during that time in a war fighting, and so people started calling French fries freedom fries, and it was a bandwagon effect. Everybody's just jumping on. Why? Because the French are bad. We're not going to call them French fries. be careful of this. Now, some of you are out there saying, Doug, I'm listening to this and I don't do this. Well, great. Good for you. More than likely you do, though. And the question is not, do you? The question is, do you notice? And the question is if you don't notice, how does it affect your thinking and how does it affect what you do? As I said again, the Founding Fathers put in multiple checks and balances, Electoral College and others, to make sure that this, as best they could, this idea of someone controlling the narrative, getting people on a bandwagon effect, everybody just jumping on board, and just following along without asking any questions and true questions, was something they were very scared of as they're going through. When you understand these base ones, then we're going to get into some others that on basis of beliefs that we need to take a look at. And one would be the hindsight. It's called just hindsight or looking back. People believe they knew it all along after an event has occurred. Past events, you can say, well, this is going to predict the future. And, sometimes this is the non-expert can overestimate their capabilities. And there's two things here going on, but this hindsight that, okay, well, if it happened this time, it's going to happen again. And that's not always true, because one of the things that logic teaches us and that understanding teaches us, if you're going back and you're truly depending on the history, do you understand why the event occurred the first time? Again, it goes back to some of these understandings that we've had before. And if you're not understanding why the event happened the first time, and then it's harder to say that just because it happened then it's going to happen now. You hear this all the time in, unfortunately, you hear it all the time in politics in reference to candidates and others who run for higher office. Democrats have been much more purveyors of using what we'll call identity politics to find candidates and run for office. They will set a matchup. If you hear them, we have the first fill in the blank, whether it be a gender, whether it be a nationality, whether it be a religious, we're the first this. We're going to look for those identity. And it doesn't matter if somebody else may have been more qualified. We're going to go for the identity politics in the sense that we have this notion that if you just throw away the norms of achievement and advancement and just put people in positions, even if they're not qualified, that it's good in the bigger scheme. When you believe this and you begin to look for candidates and you say, well, in the past, and I use the best hindsight example here for a lot of people, they watched Donald Trump win the presidency in 2016 and become president in 2017. For the next, and we've been going at it now for the next 6 years, have had in every cycle people and candidates being, quote, Trump-like candidates. In other words, they take on his persona, his demeanor, his aggressiveness, his style, just moving forward. The problem is that most people are not Donald Trump. In fact, almost no one is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made a world and a living in which he is who he is. And for people then just to automatically assume that, well, if I want to run for office, I'm going to be an outsider. I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to be, or a businesswoman. And I'm going to talk down to the media and I'm not going to trust anybody and I'm going to call out everything. Okay, that may work for Donald Trump, but is it going to work for you? Is it natural to you? Is it something that you have developed? Or in the sense of, if you just go with the hindsight belief, well, it worked last time, it should work this time. That takes out any alternative theories, any alternative motives, any alternative environment that goes along with a next election cycle. And it's also will hurt you because you may say things that would work when Donald Trump said it, but doesn't work in your district or the run you're running in, or even for the issues that you care about. So, just because it happened once, don't base all of your beliefs that it's going to happen again. Now, is history a good prognosticator of what may happen? Yes. But this is also a concern if we get into a bigger picture here of our founding fathers, who are not just our founding fathers, but our current thinking as well, is that when a belief is something that's happened and we only assume that it will happen, where are we judging that in the time frame of history? All of this cancel culture movement is taking many times things that happened 10 to 15 years ago when you did not know what would be, quote, in or out today, and holding you accountable for what you said then to a today's standard. Now, that doesn't mean that that murder's always, murder's always wrong. Being hateful is a wrong way to go. But what I'm trying to say is that there may be things that are not considered culturally relevant now that are culturally relevant then, that all of a sudden now are hot button issues. Transgender is a very large one. I mean, 15, 16 years ago, it was rare to talk about, are there more than two genders? It's a male and a female, period. End of statement. Be done with it. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. You can dress up. I don't care. Hear me clearly. I really don't care. But don't make me have to believe what you believe. That was never even a concept 15 years ago. And now we're holding people accountable for things that they said or beliefs that they held in a time in which we were not even sure what the next, what this cycle would look like, especially in this idea of cancel culture. So, again, be very careful with this. I mean, we think that, oh, well, it's just happened before, it's going to happen again. But times do change. Thoughts do change. People do change. So this hindsight idea has, got to be something that has to be tempered with, are we asking the right questions? Moving to another one. This is one, hopefully that'll help a lot of you. And it's assuming someone is acting that way because of who they are or their character. In other words, let me give an example. And you may have seen stories like this. Say someone is having a really, really bad day. They've had a parent die. They've had a child die. They've lost their jobs. They're withdrawn. They're not thinking correctly. They may lash out. Maybe something that you say something to them and they come back at you with a hateful comment, or they ignore you. They move on, and we immediately assume that they're just either they're obnoxious, they're elite, or they're snobbish, or they don't care, or they're mean-spirited, however, but yet without ever looking into the reason why someone is acting the way they do, we end up in a lot of problems. If you just simply, one of the best lessons here is I had somebody explain, as they were talking one day with leadership, and they said, you don't know whose cat's been kicked that day. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. You talk about the idea, it comes home, the little boy gets home at school, he gets in trouble in class, he comes home, he gets in trouble with his dad, his mom gets home, he gets in trouble with his mom for his grades, and finally he just takes it, the old literally, I kicked the cat. Why? Because I couldn't kick anything else. I was just, at a certain point in time, I was just lashing out with the first opportunity I had to lash out. So many times, many of you will lash out, and it's not because you're a mean person or you're hateful to the people or you don't like the people that just ask you a question. It just simply falls under the category of, at this moment in this time, I'm having outside influences that have caused me to react in this way. So don't ever just assume the worst, or frankly, even the best of others, simply because they act in a particular moment in a particular way, especially if you've had time to know that person. And if this is out of character for them, this actually opens up a wonderful opportunity for you to be a friend or to get to know someone even better, is to say, hey, something seems off today. What's going on in your life? Again, we have gotten so away from caring about people, truly asking, truly caring about how people feel, that it makes us, just assume the prospects of others based on their character instead of what is going on around them. So always, again, just as in your life, things around you influence how you actually react. You've got to also be willing to give others the benefit of the doubt. Remember, we had a lesson a few weeks ago. We talked about being silent, asking a question, then being silent. This is one of those times that would come in perfectly in your overview of life, that you say it, you listen, and you're that friend. The next thing I want to talk about is when someone's good at something, we tend to give them credit for being good at everything. Be careful here as well. I see this again, we go back to our political realm here. How many times have you heard someone is the rising star because they gave one speech? They're the rising star because they won an election. It was just amazing to me. Glenn Youngkin, the current governor of Virginia, won the race, and within 2 days, people were talking about him running for president. Wow, he won Virginia. He's a Republican that can take independence and he can move it across the country. The guy had not even set foot in the governor's mansion in Virginia, and yet because of a positive thing in his life, they're now attributing the fact that he could actually become the president of the United States. Barack Obama, beloved by many now, not by everyone, but by many, was a senator in Illinois who did nothing. He voted present more than he voted anything else. He wouldn't take a stand. Very anomalous as far as what his views may be. And yet he got elected to the United States Senate. He gave a speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004, I believe it was. And he blew the crowd away. It was from a speech perspective, it was one of those high and uplifting speeches. He really drawed people in. He's an excellent orator. And immediately after that speech, you not only said, well, he's going to be elected senator, you began to have people putting him in line for the presidency. From a conservative perspective, Obama's administration was disastrous. But yet the Democrats, again, going back to their idea of what they want to see go on, they found someone to run. They took it off of one speech and said, look, we can build around this. The same as Republicans are doing it, that if they do one thing good, then we're going to immediately promote them. And we've got to be careful about this, because if this is the way we judge, what's going on, then we're going to get taken for a ride, and we're going to find out about people later on that we should have found out up front. People have asked me about this all the time. I've known Ron DeSantis for a long time. We were in Congress together. We sat next to each other in committee. I think Ron's done a fabulous job as governor. I think he found his mark as governor of Florida. And if he wants to be president and that's the takeoff for him to get there, then if he wants to run, again, he can run. Donald Trump's already, running. It's going to be a very tough race. And at this point in time, do I see DeSantis being able to beat Donald Trump in many of these states? No, I don't. But one of the things that I want to talk about here is just because he's been a good governor in Florida, does that mean that automatically translates over into everything it would take to be a good president? I'm going to tell you it may not. Because one of the things that people are now finding out, and he's getting very frustrated with it, is people are starting to talk about things that they never talked about in his governor's race. There's a governor's vetting and that is more particular to the state in which you're running. And then there's a presidential vetting that is a national vetting that is deeper and probing and more caustic than anything you could possibly imagine. And if you have anything in your background, parking tickets, library fine, you looked wrong at a Girl Scout or an old person one time, if you said something, that at the time was probably, off context, but didn't look good, they're going to find it. And Ron DeSantis is finding that out right now. And it's going to be even more so because Donald Trump is going to push this issue. So all I'll say here is don't always just attribute good to someone who has done something, well in the past. The other issue, and there's a lot of these, but I maybe end right here with this one. And this is a self-serving sort of bias. This is the one that we attribute our success to our own skills. We attribute all our failures to something else. Folks, Jocko Willett, former Navy SEAL, he wrote the book Extreme Ownership, along with Leif Babin and others. This is one that I'm a big believer on. There's two things in life: it's choice and, taking ownership. The choices you make determine what you're going to be. The people you hang around determine many times who you're going to become. The choices you make in life to spend money, not spend money, to work hard, to not work hard, to go to a new job, to not go to a new job. All of those things matter, but they're choices you make. What has happened so many times now in our society through participation trophies in life and everything else has chose to reward that by saying, well, it wasn't your fault. It was external factors. It was somebody else got the job. Somebody else didn't believe in you. Somebody else didn't tell you something. Folks, the best thing you can give yourself, the gift that you can give yourself, number one, everything we've talked about today is number one, research issues for yourself. Don't just simply go to people who believe like you do. Don't just believe that somebody has done it in the past. It's actually going to work in the future. And don't believe that somebody who has had a success that will continue on in all areas of their life or beyond what they had a success in. And then also don't simply attribute all your success to others. You did not get to where you are by simply walking up by yourself and doing it. Zell Miller, former governor in Georgia, senator in Georgia, had this story he told. And the story was the fact that if you ever come across a turtle sitting on a fence post, the one thing you can know is he didn't get there by himself. And what he's, the morale or moral of that story is that we don't get to where we are in life on our own very, very many times. In fact, we have others in our life that are the ones who have pushed us and helped us and gave us the inspiration and kept us going when we didn't want to go. It is all of that dealing in our life that if those are the ones that give us the skills to accomplish things. And if we don't accomplish it, and if we only blame what we believe to be the fault of others, then we're going to miss the opportunity to grow, understand, and be able to move forward. So, look, I know this is a lot, just sort of to take in, and we could, really go in depth about almost all of these different things. But the main things I want you to remember today is you're finishing up your workout, as you're going to work, you're riding along. Number one, research, do your homework. Conservatives, should be the party of the intellectual party. And that's not saying that you become so book-minded that you're no worldly good, but you need to know other people's, what they believe and why they believe it so that it strengthens your own. Not to tear down your beliefs, but to strengthen your own. I was one who came into seminary, and I went into seminary a conservative. I came out even more conservative. I went to law school. I was conservative. I came out even more conservative. Why? Was it because that there was not liberalism taught? No, it was because it was taught, but I saw my own beliefs strengthen because I was able to test those beliefs. Those are the kind of things in learning and thinking for what you're doing and how you're doing it are so important to our life every day. You can't just assume, as I said earlier, that if it happened once, it's going to happen again. You can't believe that just because somebody's good or they're good looking or whatever, that all of the things are going to be good. And you can't also just blow off that if anything happens bad, it was somebody else's fault. You got to take ownership for what you do. Your choices in your marriage, your life, your family, your kids are your choices, not anybody else's. The question is, what do you do with those choices? And when those choices may not turn out like you want them to do, are you going to take ownership for them or are you going to blame somebody else? Good thinking requires you do your homework. Good thinking requires that you understand why things are happening. You understand why people act the way they do, not just their surface story, but their backstory. You've got to understand that there are many things to going in to thinking well, being able to lead, and being able to grow. The first off is knowing yourself and knowing what you base your trust on. Is it just one source? Is it just somebody who's done good? Or are you out there actually trying to find out an answer that not only you can believe in, but that you can share with somebody else? And that's it for the Doug Collins podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday with Chan Gailey. You won't want to miss it. Talking about the NFL draft. And, of course, Friday's Finest with James will be just around the corner as well. God bless you. Have a great day.